All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us today on this very special topic that we are talking about the online assessments. And first of all, I would briefly introduce myself and my key speakers. My name is Dr. Sajid, and I'm from Pakistan. I'm working with Canadian International School of Beijing more than 8 years. I'm working as a head of department and grade level lead. I was the principal of the Pakistan International Embassy College here in Beijing also. In all of my teaching career of 23 years, I taught in different places, different universities as well. And this is what we are talking about. And this is gonna be our second webinar today. First, we have done on 6th of June about the e-learning strategies and challenges. So on the very high request of the teaching community and all of my friends and all of the people, we are about to have this second session because this is the time, not only all around the institutions around the world, that the institutions, the teachers, they are taking assessments of some of the grades, some of their students. And it's really some kind of tricky sometimes to make sure that the students' integrity, academic honesty, as well as how the students can deal and mark those assessments by the teachers. Because some institutions, they want the students, their predicted grades to send to for the university applications, as well as for other purposes. So I'm really thankful to all of you and for your such a nice participation today. And we have 3 key speakers. I'll introduce later on one by one as soon as they started their talks. There are some kind of SOPs, please follow that. As soon as you join the meeting, please mute yourself. Okay, you can show up your video or you can not show up, that's all up to you. Secondly, if you need to ask questions at the end of the key speakers, once they're finished, you can ask questions from any one of the key speakers. You can mention their names, that my question is from so-and-so person. But you can ask verbally a face-to-face direct question, or if you need to type the question in the WeChat, that's also the option for you. If you like to share your experiences after the key speakers have finished their talks, you may allow it just for about a minute or so. You can share your experiences as a participant, okay? So thank you so much once again, and we need to start now. We have the speakers here today. From US, it's good morning there, and from London, Mr. Iltaf is here. I think it's afternoon there, and Rida is from Pakistan, and I'm from Beijing. So good evening, good night, and good afternoon, all of you. Okay. So the first key speaker, we have Mr. Bruce Richer. Mr. Bruce has a master's degree in elementary education from the University of New Haven and a master's in administration from Caldwell University. Bruce is a technology teacher in a middle school in New Jersey. He is a lifelong learner who enjoys learning, teaching, and sharing knowledge. Bruce is having 25 years teaching experience. Being technologically affiliated also gave him an edge in this tough time for creating better learning platforms for his students. So thank you so much, Bruce, for joining us today. And now the floor is open for you. Go ahead, please.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to share my own perspective and learn others' perspective about assessing things, online. So I just want to start with, I'm a teacher in a kindergarten through 8 school district. Students in my school district go to a regional high school, but in my own district, kindergarten through 8, when I think about online assessment, the first thing I think about and my own school district has thought about is no assessments at all. Like in the beginning, especially the first couple months, we really thought about SEL, social emotional learning, wellness, make sure all the students are okay. make sure, they all have food. If they don't have food, then the school delivers it to them, if they get lunch from there, and really just to make sure that they're okay before we take the second step of what's the assessment, what is your grade going to be, what are you going to get on your report card. And I really think that was the right way to go, especially since, like most schools, I think in the country, or dare I say world, my own school had a half a day to prepare for remote learning and quickly came up with 2-week and then 4-week plans. So the first thing I would say about assessment, if you're first diving into it, is I wouldn't do a lot of assessment at all. I think a lot of the Zoom calls are to check on students. We did give them work, but a lot of it was really not graded in the beginning. It was just to make sure that they are okay. Moving forward, once we got further into it and we were in remote learning for 3 months, I would say after the first couple of weeks, then we did turn towards making sure everybody's okay, but at the same time start doing some online assessments with them. And one of the issues that we had in a kindergarten through 8 scenario is we just don't know who's home with the students. They could be home by themselves. In the school district where I end up working in, a lot of the parents are healthcare workers or work at the hospital. So the student might be alone the whole day and not with anybody else. So all of the learning is asynchronous. You would teach classes and hopefully most of the students would show up, but a lot of the time, not every single student showed up for varying reasons. So when we take a look at assessment, we tried all different types of assessment, and really to have grace towards the students of more to assess it, and instead of giving it a letter grade, just give them more verbal and audio feedback so they could get to understanding. So as far as distance learning and doing online assessment, a couple of things that I thought about was one thing is using Google Forms, which my school had used a lot. And in terms of who's doing the work, which is a big question, one of the things you can do on Google Forms is to make the questions and answers in a different order. So when students go to take it, if they are collaborating, which they might not want to be when they're taking a personal test, all of the questions would be in a different order. And that's one thing that you could mix up on Google Forms, and one thing we did for assessment. The other tool that we used is a tool called Edpuzzle, where you actually give the student a video to watch and then questions along the way that stop them as they're watching the video. And Edpuzzle is very good for online assessment because you can actually see if the student understands either your video that's playing, or if you find a video on your content area. And probably more importantly, just like a Google, any Google product, Edpuzzle also keeps track of how long the student actually worked on the problems that you gave them. So if you gave them a 5-minute video and 5 questions, and the student was only on it for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, you know that they went through it very, very quickly. If they were on it for a much longer period of time, it's a way to check to make sure that they were on it, doing the work. And then if they didn't do the work, in my own school district, I know that we did, I would email the parents, then we would go to the next level, possibly the guidance counselor or administrator, just to make sure everything is okay first, and then to get the assessment and get the work from students. Most of the work that I do, I'm a media teacher in the school. I don't give tests at all. They're all projects. And once we went to remote learning, the projects were all off of choice boards. So every month, the students would pick 2 of the 6 projects, public service announcement, commercial, maybe something on Earth Day when it was in that particular month. And those things are graded on a 1-point rubric. So the 1-point rubric for assessment just gives every single thing that you want the student to learn, whether they achieved it or they didn't achieve it. And I think the best way to give feedback is simply just open a Zoom, whatever tool you need to use, and you can give the student video feedback and send them a video. I also do a lot of feedback with email, that if students are working through coursework, I also teach Python coding that actually goes through and scores them as they're learning the skills. I can quickly get a hold of students. The fastest way is through email if they're stuck on any of the lessons. But I think the best feedback you could definitely give in remote learning is there are a variety of different tools, Screencastify, WeVideo, just opening up Zoom or Google Meet, anything that would record and then the student would get feedback as you might be with them in the classroom and get video back or an audio file back, rather than just a grade on the project and they're not exactly sure, why they got that grade. And there are a fantastic amount of free tools that were for COVID, and now we'll see moving forward in the next school year how many of them would be free. But even if whatever platform you're using, Zoom, Google Meet, I know there's a lot of other ones, as long as that could record and you can share your screen very simply. And one of the things I work a lot myself is just on what is the best workflow. My best workflow would probably be bringing up students' work, recording the screen, do a screencast, and then I could talk right over their work. And for example, in a video, say, that's a terrific opening, but I might put in a title, I might put in music, the ending was good, but you might need a little bit more here. And it's almost like I'm having a conversation with them, just like we're having a conversation now in Zoom. And I think that authentic feedback works very well. One of the things also that's becoming very, very clear is because you're not in the classroom with the student, doing a video feedback to a student is terrific, because I think it also takes care of my first point, wellness, making sure they're okay, they see you. Video is very, very powerful, as opposed to just going through a paper or a test maybe and saying, you got a 75 on the test. Now, why did I get that score on a test? Why were some of the things right, some of the things wrong? Especially if it's open-ended answers, you want to know why you didn't get that correct. Where here you could, again, drop in audio, drop in video, however you might do it. And again, a very simple workflow, and I started doing this even for my lessons, is not really preparing a video for the lesson, but rather giving the lesson, videotape it in Zoom, then just edit it in QuickTime and put it up for the students in Google Classroom. I did assessment much the same. I just went into the Google Classroom, which was the vehicle where students were handing in work, open up their work, make 15, 20-second recordings of what I thought of their work. They would get it back, revise it, and then hand it back in, and hopefully their end product would show improvement. And most importantly, for assessment, you want to make sure that they have understanding. Just to go and regurgitate information and be able to score, a good score on the test. I think that's, important. You need to know some information, but I think more important is future skills of, can you do problem solving? Have you shown creativity? Have you shown that if you are with a partner, you could work with somebody else? And the assignments that I give, they're more open-ended, problem-based learning, where there is no one answer to the problem. And that's the last thing that I wanted to talk about. I know in my own school district, it was an issue, of students maybe getting a lot of help with their work and not doing all of it themselves. If it is an open-ended question or problem-based learning, there is no one correct answer. They're going to have to go and create something to show you understanding of whatever the topic may be. In my particular case, it's with digital video or with technology, but you could use this across the curriculum area any place. Instead of just giving a simple test on a book that you might have read, assign different open-ended projects they could do to create a new ending, to come up with different ideas from the book, maybe be a character and videotape themselves as a character. So just to end it, I know I have a minute left. I think make sure the students are okay first and foremost, before you even look at assessment. If you do look at assessment, try to vary it up so it's not the same all the time. And then probably the most important thing is give good feedback. I think that's what everybody, as an adult, as a student, you want to know what you got right, maybe what you can improve on, and exactly how to do it. And I think by giving audio and video feedback, that's the most powerful assessment that you could give. So thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to hear from everybody else and then answer questions as people have questions for us.
Thank you very much, Bruce. It was really nice feedback from your side, from your point of view. And yes, I totally agree with that, because during this pandemic time that we guys are dealing with the technologies. And I know some of the teachers, they never used Zoom before, right? In different institutions all around the world. And it's not only for the teachers, even for the students, it's gonna be a new experience. in particular, when you guys are accessing the formative or the summative assessments. That's really, really something important for the kids, as well as for the institutions, as for the teachers, as we are doing it now. So thank you so much for your input. And the next that we have, it's Rida Zainab here with us today. Thank you so much, Rida, for joining us today. Rida has completed her master's in English literature and applied linguistics, TEFL, Cambridge International Certified Teaching, and have been teaching ever since. Presently, Rida is teaching English language to middle school students to Beacon House, Islamabad, Pakistan, and managing social media platforms. She is passionate about education and learning. Thank you so much once again, Rida, and floor is open for you now. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so thank you so much for inviting me here. And I had a little bit of, backlash back there. I got late while joining. That's one of the reasons that, we all are facing these days because we didn't use technology at all before. Now, since it's like all about technology, especially, since the online teaching has started.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I just want to start off with my own experiences. I'm extremely grateful to Sajid for allowing me to, join this platform and to everybody here listening to me. And, I just want to share my own experiences because I've also learned through practicing and through exploring. I haven't been, a technology pro before, but since it's like the time that the requirement is like so basically, I usually in our school we have assessments and we were planning assessments, but as what the first speaker said, that we are no more focusing on assessments or we are going to be having roundup tasks instead of online assessments because that's how it is. So earlier when we were just taking our online classes, we had our Google Classrooms and we had Hangout and we made our groups everywhere like that. And my school also provided us with the platform that if somebody is, not having some gadgets, they can have them from school so that, anybody who's deprived of facilities, because in Pakistan, not everybody has a fluent internet access or proper gadgets. So our school also provided us with them if somebody didn't have them. Luckily for me, I was using a lot of, e-learning strategies while in class as well. I used to have quizzes on Socrative. I used to have quizzes on Edmodo. And, because we had our recently attached, what do you call it, those, screens and projectors in our classes. So we were just recently affiliated with that. So we had a little bit of idea about using online technology. So now for my own experiences, currently I mostly use Padlet. Padlet is one very effective platform for hands-on activities. I recently did, a task in which my students were allowed to add their own comments on the wall. However, if I used to give them tasks, I didn't know that if somebody is going to do it, somebody submitted it, some of them didn't do it. But through Padlet, it was really easy and it was really effective because they got to, talk about it. They got to share their ideas and comment on each other's, live without, submitting or getting to upload it somewhere, which is a lot of hassle for a lot of the kids, especially for Pakistani kids because they are not really aware or not really affiliated with e-learning. So then I also use quizzes. That's another very effective platform. And if I'll be allowed in the end, I'm also going to share a couple of screens that I have that I already did my quizzes over there and my kids have their results. And, it's a very effective, assessment strategy in which I can easily see my kids' what they did, how did they perform. Because even for middle schoolers, they are still young kids, they need to get appreciation. So they get really excited watching those stars and watching those, all those grades that they get through these platforms. And I also use Socrative. Socrative is also very effective because it's another online quiz form in which students log in through their email IDs or just their names to my class. And I can join as many kids I want in one quiz. And it's also very effective because I get my result right away once everybody finishes. And mostly what I do is that I prefer hands-on activities because since I'm an English teacher and we don't have like one specific answer like science or math, so my kids are allowed to use their own imaginations and their interpretations for whatever topic they're talking about. So we have the best way is obviously the Google Classroom. We have homework submissions, and we also have a lot of other quizzes that keep on going. Apart from that, I need to understand the demand of my students because I know what my kids want, how they want to study, how they want to begin with their lessons. Like I always in the beginning try to have a conversation with my kids, like either they want to do poetry today or either they want to be doing prose. So it actually makes my classroom environment very easy for my kids to, enter, and they want to, sometimes it happens that my class takes even longer because my kids are like talking and they're sharing their ideas and they're, full of enthusiasm. And because in these online classes, a lot of us are facing this issue that students are not attending and the strength is very less, and because of which we cannot assess the students properly because then we have to call them and get them to the classes. But for me it's been almost like a couple of kids, but apart from them everybody is coming and they're very enthusiastically doing their quizzes, their Padlet forms and everything like that. One problem with Padlet is that it requires upgrade after some time, which is obviously not a very resourceful form because not everybody can, pay for websites. So I tend to share different platforms with my kids which are free because that's how it is. And then on Google, you can find a lot of other forms and a lot of other different websites that provide you with free quizzes and online testing. Okay, and then I also have to take care of the fact that how do you make your lessons interactive? Because if I'm not making my lessons interactive, my kids will not be attending it. And if they're not attending it, then I won't be able to assess them or I won't be able to get a good feedback. And as the first speaker said, that feedback is extremely important. And I must agree that, kids, they love to get a positive feedback, or even if there's a negative one. So I tend to give a positive feedback in the beginning and then add a little, critical note to it, but in a very subtle way so that my kids don't get offended. And I just try to motivate because every kid has his or her own potential. And since I'm taking boys, so boys are also very, demanding for good feedback. So if I'm not giving my kids proper feedback, they won't be able to, understand what they need to excel in. So maybe somebody is good in writing, somebody is good in expression wise, or somebody is good in poetry. The other one is doing excellent in prose. So I can't just have one particular command for the whole class or the whole group of my students. So I also tend to give them extra, one-on-one session, which is obviously not very practical. And a lot of my teachers who are here, they will agree that giving individual feedback is not possible. Because honestly, the amount of work that we are putting in right now is even more than what we used to do in school when we used to go to school. Because now we have to get access to different websites, different forms, since I wasn't using Zoom earlier. So it was really hard for me to join. But then I'm, aware of using Hangout and Google Meet mostly. So this is a lot going on for the teachers as well. And they must agree that on one-on-one individual feedback won't be really possible. But I try to give them as like if my student requires a feedback and he's in a critical situation, for example, he's not doing his work properly. So I will do that. So you need to understand the requirement of your students. So then you plan your own feedbacks. And obviously, I have to understand the resources that we have in Pakistan, because a lot of the kids don't get internet facilities and the power shut down. Yeah, that happens on almost everyday basis. So we have to have a backup plan. So all the teachers here must agree that you can't be like make your students waiting, or if a student was online and suddenly his electricity got shut down, so you can't blame him for it. And plus, if it happens with me, then I need to have my backup plan ready. So I need to keep my 4G on or something, or whatever there is available for. And apart from that, my students, how do I indulge them and how do I make them be more interactive and more active is because I make my platforms open for my kids. They are allowed to give their feedback. They're allowed to tell me that, okay, we don't want to study this today. We want to do this as I shared earlier. So it's really interactive, and it's a open platform. And I used to do it when I was even teaching them in school in the class. So they were allowed to give their feedback. They were allowed to give their ideas. And since English is all about imagination and interpretation, so my kids had a very big horizon of sharing their own thoughts. And I think my do I still have time to talk?
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you so much, Rita, for your input. And that was really nice discussion, sharing your ideas, your views, your feedback. And yes, I totally understand. And we all teaching community, we totally understand that the use of the technology, it's a part of the life nowadays. Being as active and proactive learner, we must have to use all of these kind of technologies very actively, not only in any subject or any one of the institutions. And using Padlet, I use like Kahoot, like the students love Kahoot in order to do the formative assessments. And also the Quizlet is also a very good choice, in fact, that we are going to use. So similarly, like there are lots of other systems that where the students, they can submit their formative or summative assessments. All right, so right now we have our third speaker, Mr. Iltaf. Is from London, and Iltaf did his master's in mathematics and PGCC from in the secondary education. Iltaf has 32 years teaching experience into secondary school teaching. He taught at Burnhall College, Pakistan, Pakistan Embassy College, Beijing, Warminster School, England, teaching A-levels and IB maths. Presently, he is teaching at Key Stage 5 and a coordinator in maths at St. Bernd Grammar School, England. So thank you so much, Iltaf Sab, and so nice of you for joining us today. And it's over to you now.
Okay, thank you for having me, Dr. Sajid. Hello, everyone. I'm just trying to, right. Yes, I've been listening to the speaker, so this is more like a personal experiences, and that's why we're all in here sharing our personal experiences. I will be doing that a less, and I will be talking about more broad spectrum of the assessments, and moving away from the textbook assessments to the assessment in pandemic type. So I prepared PowerPoint on that, and I'm going to share with you, and then I will be talking whenever. Dr. Sajid, can you share your screen with me, please?
All right, just hold on, please.
So is my screen shared with you?
It's already open. Can you share now? Or should I open your presentation here?
No, I can share. I will share my screen.
Yes.
Let me
You already
go
have
into
access
that.
of sharing your screen, please.
Okay. Share the screen. Yeah. Let's go there. And where is it? It's here. And then,
Yeah, got it.
yeah. Right. It's how to conduct online assessment effectively. So we do the assessments and different things kind of thing, but how to do it more effectively. So just to let you know, I'm teaching it in a grammar school. There are around only 100 grammar schools, and we are selective schools. So we have the highest performers in our school. So in our school, it's quite easy as compared to the other schools, to be honest, because everybody is fully motivated. They know their targets are quite high. And then this has made our job just easier than everybody else. Okay, and this is the first time I'm teaching in a state school. I've been teaching in private schools all the time, independent school for the 28 years. And I had no idea what the students have issues, because in private school, mostly rich students are there, enough amount of resources and all those things. But this is the first time I've come to see the realities, the real issues of the students. So I will be sharing a few experiences with you as we go along. Right, see, the rationale behind is we know that over the summer holidays, lot of time is, I mean, they are disconnected with their studies and they tend to forget the things. And when they come back, we have to really recap that. And I believe that maths is more forgotten as compared to the reading. And likewise, older students forget more than the younger people. But thinking of this lockdown period, this is equivalent to 4 summer holidays. So you can imagine how much amount of learning has been lost, or maybe there are more time to forget all of those things. So our main aim should be to ensure that when students return from the lockdown period, they know more rather than knowing less, kind of thing. So what should be our priorities in this case? So our priorities should be, we should be teaching to fill learning gaps and probably teach what they already know it, and just make sure they learn it properly and their foundations are strong. And we should be using some retention strategies so that they can retain whatever has been taught to them. It's very easy for them to, if we teach too quickly without making sure that they have retained it, then there is a danger that when they come back, they might have forgotten all of those things. So our focus should be on those strategies where we can make sure that their foundation is strong, they've learned it properly. And then of course, based upon that, you can move on and then you can teach a more thing, especially if you have low attainers, low attaining learners, then this is more like an issue because they tend to forget more easily. So of course, the assessments are the key part. And as Joseph last time, he said that the teachers cannot be replaced by the feedback because books cannot give the feedback. Books cannot do the assessment. So the key thing in here is assessments and then the feedback. And there are different things, different ways to give the feedback. So for example, the website I'm using is, it's a Dr. Frost Maths. It's a free for us, but it does everything for us. So whatever assessment we set online, it is marked, it's submitted there, students submit there, marked it there, and I can just click on, just like Yakapeka, I just click on analysis and I see which question was the issue for majority of the students. And then I'll just make a video of that question and I will post it. And we use Microsoft Teams, by the way, for our live lessons. So I will post it on Microsoft Teams, or I've got another, our school system is class charts where they can submit their homework. So I can make my video of that question and put it on class charts. From there they can access. Then most of the schools, how they're approaching these days. So I mean, these are games, puzzles, as Rita said, she's doing some interactive, and Bruce said he's doing some projects. So these are all different things, and they're the streamlined lessons, pre-recorded, and then also live lessons, like we are doing the live lesson, and there are some online activities. So some of the website, they give you a chance to do all, I would say that it's online lesson, and they can do they can join you, like if you're doing a quiz on Quizlet, for example, or Kahoot kind of thing. So the people, and also on Dr. Frost, we have got a live classroom where everything is done live. So that gives you a very good idea where your students stand. And without assessment, of course, it's very difficult for us to plan our next lesson. And mainly there are four key strategies for the assessment, and I'm going to look on those one, which one can be forgotten at the moment and which can be prioritized. So first of all, the assessment before the lesson. So we can still do that. And so you can do some diagnostic questions. And as I said, you can go on to Quizlet, Kahoot, and you can send them something beforehand. And then that will give them, I would say it's a thought process. So it's like they are warmed up for that lesson. And then you will know how much they remember from the last lesson, and so that you're ready to address their issues. There are so many other resources. So like GL Assessment, Kerboodle, Yakapeka, Dr. Frost, Learning for Question, Timely Practice. So I will show you the screenshot of all of these towards the end of my PowerPoint, so that if you want to access those, so feel free to go there. And by the way, they work for all the subjects, not only for maths, except Dr. Frost math. That's purely for maths. Okay, the assessment during the lesson. Of course, this is something we can't do assessment during the lesson the way we used to do in our live classroom when physically students were there. But we can sidestep this problem, and we can turn our classroom as a flipped classroom. We can send our pre-recorded video. We can send them the resources so they can go through those resources. They can learn independently. So it's like promoting independent learning. We did that with our Year 12 class because the feedback we got from the university that some students, they struggled because altogether there was no support. In here, Year 12, up to Year 12, Year 13, there's a lot of support, but at uni level, it's a lot of independent learning. So we did that, and it really worked. So what happens is they learn it themselves, and then if they have got any issues, any questions, they can send you, and then you can reply those queries kind of thing. And that gives you a good idea who has learned up to what extent. On the other hand, rather than sending your own pre-recorded lessons, I mean, there are Khan Academy, Barton Maths, YouTube, Dr. Frost, Corbett, Haggerty, all these options are there. So whatever resource you have got, you can use that. And then the assessment at the end of the lesson, again, this is largely unavailable to us, and how to replace that. So that can be done on some retrieval practice, which is done assessment days after the learning has taken place. Well, let's have a look on that in detail. So that's assessment days after the lesson. So it's again, this kind of assessment is called retrieval practice. And this is like the students must retrieve from code rather than after warm up. And then they just apply it. They recall the things and then they just apply it. And trust me, in my 32 years teaching, I started applying this technique very late into my career. So it's such a useful thing. I mean, you're teaching something and you're asking something totally unrelated, which you covered a month back, 4 weeks back, and that gives you that gives a chance students, oh my God, I don't know, I can't, how did I learn it? They go back, they have a look on that. So especially in maths, if you've forgotten the previous thing, you can't really learn the new things effectively. So it's such an important thing, retrieval practice. So I would strongly recommend that each one of us does that. But timing is really, really very important in that. So how can we do that via assessment? So as I said, timing is very important. If you have low learners, then do it 3 days, 1 to 3 days after the lesson has taken. For mediocres, about a week. And for the high achievers, you can do after 14 days. And you can increase these timings as they get used to these kind of assessments. And then instead of 1 to 3 days, you can go to 1 week, 1 week can go to 2 weeks, and then so on. So again, this is something which will ensure that whatever they've learned, they've consolidated their learning. Yes, we were saying we should be doing assessments all the time, but how to do the assessment efficiently and without spending a lot of time on that. This was the biggest challenge to start with, to be honest. Then we found a way of that. So I would say, personally speaking, I would say find a prepared resources and create assessment using those resource banks rather than you finding out and doing everything manually. There's a resource bank, click the question and then put it in onto your worksheet, whatever assessment you are preparing. So pick and choose, and this is all done digitally. And also use those websites which are free. I would strongly recommend, because schools are not going to pay subscription for all of the websites. And also make sure this is in your format. For example, the one I am using is Dr. Frost. So I can choose from there. I just pick up the questions. It makes an assessment. It marks automatically, and then it records all this just automatically. I'll show you my screenshot. It's done such and such topic assessment, 60%, 70%, and all those things. And also last time I heard colleagues saying, oh, I'm preparing 3 worksheets, 4 worksheets for same class. I would say don't do that. Just create one worksheet and try to differentiate within that worksheet. So there are, let's say, 15 questions. So maybe there are 8 questions that are very simple, and then gradually you can make it harder. So just create one worksheet rather than. And then carrying out those assessments is a key thing. As I said, we are very lucky. Our students are really high achiever. So, I mean, it's very, and the parents are really closely contacted with us, and we involve parents into them. So what we do is on the assessment day, by the way, we haven't done any summative assessments so far. All the assessments I've done so far are the formative assessments, but we are doing it now for summer because we have to give them the end of the year grades. So summative assessments don't make it more than an hour long. And again, all the students won't be able to log on at the same time. So tell them, oh, its time is from 9 to 5. So they can choose any time, but they won't be able to carry on with that more than an hour because you have given 1 hour slot on that. And I know there is a chance that they will, it's very easy to be honest, to cheat on the examination, on the online assessment, and it's hard to detect. But I think we can make sure that we promote honesty, academic honesty in our students, and also involve the parents. And last time that Sajid said they are using a WeChat and WhatsApp video calls at the same time. So it's a deterrent kind of thing. So this will stop them from doing any cheating. And when it comes back, then you can have your results, and then based on that you can issue them the grades. Again, that will give you a good idea for next year, kind of thing, when they come back. So these are the screenshot of some of the websites, kind of thing. So that's ED kind of thing. So as you can see, it's all the subjects there: maths, computing, Spanish, whatever subject. So ed.co.uk. The other one is Quizlet. This is very good for English, by the way, and languages. This one, Quizlet, where Rida was saying there are open-ended question kind of thing. But this is quite nice competition between the student. You throw one line of the poetry, kind of the first line of the verse, and then the second one, the best option, who is giving the best option. So sort of competition there. Then this is Kahoot. No, Kaboodle. That's a Kaboodle. So this is also a very good tool. Assessment makes it. And then this is Yakapeka. It is a paid one, but these days I think they are not. They are offering it for free. This is a fantastic resource on that. And then GL assessment. These are more appropriate for university and beyond, to be honest. I haven't found it particularly useful for secondary schools. And then this is Dr. Frost. As you can see that, view the homework, set assessment, set the topic test, and then this is live classroom there I can do. And also look at that, browse by topic. So all the things are there. So worksheet builder, I click on worksheet builder, pick up the questions, and past papers are there, topic tests, everything is there. So we have prepared a big resource bank. So we have tailor-made it. So we have prepared all those worksheets and assessment in advance, and we have put up on that website. So whenever we want to use anything. And then this gives you activity log on the left-hand side. If you see that, this tells you who did it when, how many tries, what's the marks on there, and this is what I'm talking about. So there is no effort on there. I just clicked on that, it says export the results. So these results are exported there. So it's all done from me. So this saves a lot of time, and then I have plenty of time to give feedback to my students. So in terms of feedback, as I said, I send a video of the most common problem, but individually they're emailing me, they're submitting their work on, we are using internal system, which is called as class charts. So they are submitting their work on the class charts. And also if I'm doing any online assessment, since there is no working involved, I can ask them, do the working and submit your working on class charts. So this is another way of discouraging any sort of cheating. And that's all from me, unless you have any questions after that. Okay, thank you, Dr. Sajid.
Thank you very much, Altaf Sahab. So nice of you. Just a minute. Yeah, that's lovely for sharing your lovely ideas, your feedback, and especially sharing your resources. And I would also like to add something. Like there is another website, thinkercards.com, that I just shared it here on the chat group. And what you can do is like you can prepare the questions, and you can show it those questions to your students while they are online. And there is a QR code, and you just need to use your device to scan the QR code from your phone, and on the screen they will give you the exact answer, interactive answer to your students, whether your answer is right or wrong. And then later on you can share your exact questions. So that's, you can just cut those QR codes, you can share with them the 4 choices of one question, A, B, C, D, 4 multiple choices. Pretty awesome. Okay, sometimes it's free, sometimes they ask for the payment, but these days, you know, the conditions are entirely different. All right, thank you so much. And one more thing like I would like to share here, that's basically, we're talking about the technology, we're talking about the assessments. And because this is the time for the institutions where they're about to end off the sessions. And some of the schools already closed, like our school, Bruce School is already closed last week. We already started our summer break. But some of the institutions, they're still working, all right? So formative assessments is okay. It's a continuous assessment. It's all going on. Like Rita mentioned, that lots of activities. Bruce mentioned like different kind of projects. The point is like you have, being as a teacher, being as an educationist, we have to define those kind of assessments, whether it's formative or summative, in a way that the students must learn and enjoy and participate in those activities. Like say, for example, if we have a normal lesson of 50 minutes, and if you need in a physical environment, and you have to teach 50 minutes online, which looks so difficult, because the students don't want to stay for 15 minutes sometimes. This is what the reason most of the institutions, they have reduced the time sessions, like 40 minutes, maybe maximum 30 minutes, depends. And also we have to sort out those activities in a way, like for example, sciences. Like in sciences, you need to take your students to the lab, the physics, chemistry, biology, and science labs. We working as the design labs, where our students, they need to design different projects, different products by using those technologies. But we design those applications, we design those projects in a way that the students can do it at home, right? I remember, I think I shared last time in the webinar, like my students, they're supposed to create the laptop cover by their own recycled material at home. They need to create a laptop cover by their own laptop or for somebody's laptop at home, and they have to test it. And they have to go through all the design cycles of research, designing, creation, as well as evaluation. So on the basis of those, we have to give them the marks. But here, the most important point is that if we need to go for these summative assessments, give them the unit tests, the chapter test, for example, or for the final exams, for example, how we need to monitor them, how we can make sure that the students, they are, whatever they have learned, they are giving the right choice for giving the assessment. Can someone please mute? I don't know whose voice is here. All right, so this is, I mean, this is what the purpose is that we are here. And thank you so much. I really appreciate all the key speakers. Now we have a question and answer sessions. This is really, really important, and I'm waiting for that. So you have the choices. You can ask directly a verbal question. You can ask directly any one of the three key speakers, even myself is okay. And if you don't want to ask verbal question, just type in the chat box and then we can float those questions. Yes, please. I think in our participants, we have the students, we have some parents also, majority teachers and educators. So being as maybe some administrators of some of the institutions, if you have any questions regarding your own setups from any one of us, please most welcome to ask. Floor is open to ask questions now.
Sir, my name is Musa bin Shahzad, and I have a couple of questions. My first question is from Mr. Bruce. Sir, assuming a situation of two students, student A and student B, who are being given an online math assessment of 20 marks. The allocated time is half an hour for both of them. The instructions are already brief. Eventually, student A submits on time, while student B submits after an hour due to some reasons. Student A gets 80% with timely submission, while student B gets 100% scores. As far as grading is concerned, sir, if you were to grade both students, how would you justify this situation?
That's a great question. I think it's going to be difficult to figure out because they're not in the classroom with us. And I would probably rectify that by giving them an open-ended task to do instead of giving them a specific online test to test their understanding. Because the disparity of the time you were saying between student A and student B, without them being in the classroom with you, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to figure out what the case was. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with giving online tests, but if I suspected that person wasn't doing it or took so much time, I might give them another task just to make sure that they understood the material.
I also have a question for Mr. Bruce. How can academic honesty be monitored and measured in online assessments?
That's a great question. And in my own school district, we really, struggle with that because I appreciate what the other speakers were saying. We can have the honor system and say that, I'm going to be the only person doing it, and that's terrific. But when you start getting work that the student does not have the skill to do, and for example, is a piece of writing that they didn't write, I think the only strategy that you can use as a teacher is to try to give them problem-based learning assignments, open-ended assignments, go create a video to explain what how if it's a math problem or a language arts thing, and have them make something creative that they are going to be the only person that can create it. And they can't have a parent, an older brother, somebody else do it for them, because you're requiring them to either their voice or possibly video of them to show that they understood the material. And as the teacher, you should be getting, if I had 20 students, I should be getting in 20 different assignments and not the same exact assignment and the same exact answers from all of them.
Also, I would like to add something. Bruce, I have a great answer for that. And it actually depends on the number of the size of the students in your class. Like I said, there's 25 students. So you might have 25 different questions or different assessments. Or maybe you have created one assessment and you can monitor it in different times along with the different TAs or as well as the teachers community. So the thing is that also being as the IB school, we also teach the students as academic honesty, and our students knows it very well. And I think if the key learners, if they know it about the academic honesty, that won't be a big problem for them.
I mean, the other thing I would add is if you're worried about academic honesty and it is a type of test where it's 20 questions, yes. I know with Google Forms, you can mix up the answers, the questions, so they're not in the same order. And with an add-on, I think called time limiter, you can give them, 30 minutes to do the task. So it would be very, very difficult for them to figure out my question number 1 is the other person's question number 10, and to be able to cheat on it. That's one thing that you could try to do to minimize, you know, them not doing the work honestly themselves.
Exactly. Yes, please, questions.
My second question is from Mr. Altaf. How will you help students to cope up their fear of online internal assessments, as we all get some assistance in school from our teachers if the instructions are not crystal clear? Sir, please give some of your opinion.
I couldn't get your last part of your question.
Sir,
Probably, yeah, can you go on, please, Musa?
how will you help students to cope up their fear of online internal assessments, as we all get some assistance in school from our teachers if the instructions are not crystal clear?
Yes, probably you're talking about the summative assessment, which we are about to hold in next month, first week of July. So I've stopped teaching them anything new, and I've given them so-and-so chapters are included in your assessment, and we have already started revising the stuff on that. So I'm just giving them mini test kind of thing, informal assessments, and we're going through all the steps. So I'm basically helping them to revise things. And also I'm encouraging them to send me the questions, more and more questions. So they're more than welcome to send me anything via email, or as I mentioned on class chat. So, or they can just contact me, and I can, sometimes some people do not understand something. So what I've done is I've got a PowerPoint, a very good PowerPoint by another professional person. So what I do is I record my voice over that, because I know that my student will understand better if I actually, because I know my student very well. You know, as you said, how will you judge the academic honesty? I know my student who is capable of getting 80%, who is capable of getting 90%. So I know that student. Also, during the next live lesson, if somebody has done extraordinarily well, who is not capable of doing that, I will just throw a couple of questions on that, and that will expose that student. Also, I've told them when you come back in September, there will be proper written assessment. So if your score, online score, is consistent with our actual assessment, then it's fine otherwise. So we are discouraging them, at the same time we're trying to teach them academic honesty and that. So simple as that. I've stopped teaching now, and I'm doing revision with them in online lessons kind of thing, and giving them some short end of topic tests.
Thank you, sir.
There's a question from Mr. Altaf, from Mr. Shehzad. I think he said that I'm teaching mathematics at the postgraduate level, where solutions to questions are lengthy. What do you suggest that the way to access students in mathematics?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I've limited myself to the secondary schools teaching kind of thing. So something like GL assessment, I would say, if you go on there, and the universities kind of things, lot of UK universities, they have all this stuff online, and probably you can get some help from there probably. But by all means, I can look into that, and I can just send you the details later on. But I can't think anything on the top of my head right now. I understand the questions are too lengthy. Yes, let's say talk about the proofs, for example. I remember topology proofs, groups proofs kind of thing. So in that case, I mean, one thing I can think of now is send them a proof. I'm missing a few lines in there, and especially the conclusion missing there, so they can fill those gaps. So give them half of the solution, which key steps are missing from there, and see how they respond to those things. I think that's the best thing I can think of right now.
All right, there's also a question from Mr. Joseph, is our old friend. He was the key speaker in our last webinar. And his question is like, that giving a range of the assessments and having students choose their assessments actually can encourage more direct involvement by using this element of the choice? Anyone would like to answer?
I mean, I can start to
Yeah.
take that one.
Sure.
I use choice a lot, and I've actually started using, which I saw some templates that were simple in Google Slides, or you could do it in PowerPoint, and just give the student 6 different tasks to do, or a choice of 6 of them. And then in a marking period, which is about 40 days, they would do 2 of the choices that were on the board. And I find that really helps with intrinsic motivation. The kids are more motivated to do it. It also kind of differentiates the work for them, that they tend to choose one that they think, you know, might fit their skills the best. And without being there in person in the classroom, as a teacher, you might do that yourself, of giving them a different assignment than everybody else. But I think the choice board also accomplishes that, of giving them, you know, more than one way to do the assignment.
Yeah, also, I would like to add something. You know, like sometimes when we give the project assignments to the student or a group of students, we may ask our students to give the self-reflection. And that's really something important for them. Like a recent example, I can give it to you, like in IB, there's a group 4 project for those who are teaching IB. And the students from different subject areas, group 4 comes under the science subjects, including those students who are taking physics, chemistry, biology, design, and sports sciences. And one student from each subject groups, they will become one group, and they need to work on a certain topic about research, about their evaluation, hypothesis, and everything. And once they have finished their report as well as their presentation, we also ask them to write their self-reflection. On the basis of the self-reflection, they can evaluate their own projects, whatever they have done and the way that they have done, and how much contribution they have done into their assessments. So that would be easier for the teaching community, for the teachers to evaluate their projects. So if the students can evaluate as the higher achievers and teachers the right judgment, they can evaluate that he or she as a student got the high achiever or not. And then we have a feedback for the students where we can discuss that this is what you said, this is what my feedback, and that gives absolutely a right choice to the students also. All right, there is another question here. How can we make sure the quality of participation? Participation means, I don't understand what does it mean, participation? And there's also a question here. The student's family isn't supportive and does not take these classes seriously, nor lets the child can take them seriously. How would you effectively convince them?
I can answer part of that one, as that happens actually in my school once in a while. And what we do is start with the teacher first. The teacher would try to email the student, see if they can engage them. If that doesn't work, one effective method we found is then go email the student and their parent. And not all of the time, but a lot of the time, the work is handed in the next day, because now the parent understands what needs to be handed in. If the parent and student don't respond to that, either a guidance counselor in a school or some administrator, it could be the principal, they try to reach out and to call them. And I know in some schools, it might be in rural or open areas, the administrators might even drive to the student's house just to make sure the student is safe and everything is okay. That a lot of time there are extenuating circumstances. If someone's sick in the family or the parents might not be home, there's a lot of different variables and different things that you might not even think of until you could find out exactly what the story is. And that's how I would handle that one, is find out the reason why, if you can, and then take it from there.
Can I share my experience on that as well?
Sure.
It may not be applicable to most of the schools, but in our school, as I said, we use the class chart system. So whenever there's a deadline for submission of any work, that comes through that, and I click on submitted, just click on the faces, and then notice goes to the parents, because parents have got that app, the students have got app. So the moment it goes to the parents, homework not submitted, then this gives them a wake-up call. They will ask the student, And as Bruce said, the work will come to you next day or maybe same day with an apology kind of thing. But if nothing is happening, then I will email to the students. And then also later on, I will email to the parents, but I will involve the head of year, some senior member of the staff. And then they take this issue, then I'm off. So because I need to focus on my teaching, so then it's between the parents and the senior management. So they deal with that. And usually the outcome is very. They are going to listen to them. Sorry, I think I was muted for some time in between.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. We got most of your point. And also,
Okay.
also
Can
Go
I
ahead.
also add something over here?
Sure,
Yes.
sure. Go ahead, Rita.
Yeah. Basically, I was just listening to the question, and then there's something happened with my mic, so I had to switch my portal.
Okay.
Another technical issue. So basically, they asked about how to keep the engagement of their students, right? How do they make sure that the students turn in their work, right? That was the question, if I'm not wrong. So for that reason, not only involving the parents would be one way, but it also depends on what kind of a task you're giving, what kind of, the subject requirement you're giving to your students. Are you sure that your student is interested in doing that? Or is it too boring for the kids? Because we need to understand what they like and what they don't. So for example, if a descriptive writing task that I usually do in my class for English, and it's an important topic. So if I keep on repeating that all the time, my kids do get bored out of it. And it's there in most of my chapters for my English book, right? But I need to change my strategy. You need to change your strategy. Sometimes you're asking them to write. Sometimes you may give them a quiz. Sometimes you may give them a hands-on activity in which they can, do their task instead of just doing the word and submitting the homework. We have to stop being stereotypical. We have to find different ways according to the demand of our students. That's about it, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rita, because since the time that we guys started all around the world, started teaching online or e-learning, that majority of the teachers and institutions, they have changed their teaching strategies according to the subject as well as the assessments. As I mentioned, that's something you can't do online while you can do it easily in the classroom environments. So this is what the quality of like an educator, of course, to modify those assessments and the task and the homework and the projects according to the requirements, because online teaching is not that easy to make more innovative, more creative for the students. It's really big task for the teachers nowadays. And there is another question from Sadia. As a history teacher, I need to evaluate students with range of marking schemes. How can we evaluate them with detailed answers, as students have typing problems as well? Anyone like to answer, or
I mean, if they have typing problems and issues, I know in a Google Doc you could do it, and I'm sure in Microsoft you could do it. I would find a tool where they could record their voice and it will type everything out for them. Or maybe it doesn't even type everything out for them. It just records their voice, and that's what they hand in as the answer.
And also sometimes the teachers, they don't want them to type their questions, the answers. They just need to type handwritten the answers on a paper and just take a picture, a screenshot, and just send it back to the teacher through WhatsApp, WeChat, Skype. There's so many ways easily.
Yes, exactly. This is what we are also doing in our school, in our country, basically, because not everybody is a very good typer. Sometimes students find it hard to type. So we ask them to take picture and then they can submit their work. And if you want to assess them properly, you are saying that it's hard for you to assess longer questions, then you can obviously set a rubric criteria. like this is what you want. Make your students clear that obviously you also must be using a rubric or a criteria in your questions, so you can do that very frequently, so that your students know what they need to talk about, what they need to answer. Obviously for your every subject has different requirements. So if you have history, for example, then you have to be very specific about your requirements of the answer, so that it doesn't go too long into gets out of the hands for the teacher to check, because honestly it's a lot of checking. Everybody must agree.
And secondly, if you're dealing with the marking schemes given by the IGCSE, given by the IB or MIP, whatever it is, the marking schemes have a different clusters of answers. And if the students fall in any one of those clusters, we can assign them the marks. But if they didn't fall any one of them, means it's totally out of that. But again, it depends on the teachers. If you think that the student is absolutely right according to the questions and the answers, that we can assign them the marks, in fact. That's no problem. Any other question, please?
I have a question.
Sure.
The 21st century learning skills include collaboration, but students these days have more of an alone thinking process time while they solve their assignments. And I, as a student, used to collaborate a lot with my peers. So how would you, as educators, ensure collaboration between the peers now?
Collaborative learning, if I can answer, yeah, I just have a little bit to share. That if we want to see that how well my kids are collaborating, so hands-on activities are the best for it. And as I just shared, that Padlet forms are really interesting because my kids what his or her peer are doing. So they can even comment on their work, they can even like, dislike, or vote. There are plenty of options over there. So you can choose either one of the forms, and I'm sure there are going to be a lot of them, but hands-on activities are the best, so that we see that they collab with one another and they can then come up with one piece of work. Because I did it with argumentative essay, and I asked them to write their own ideas, and then they can join in their own works and see what their friends are doing.
I also think that one comes back to choice, that for some students, it's going to be simple for them to collaborate with somebody, possibly if it's their neighbor or if they both have a device. But if they don't have a device and there's no way for them to collaborate with someone, I might also do the same thing with choice, and I do give them choice. Sometimes students might just want to work by themselves, and other times, if they can collaborate with online learning, that would also be effective.
Great, thank you.
And these days, I don't think that the students, they don't have any one of the smart devices. At home, they are like parents, siblings, brothers, sisters. Definitely any one of them, they must have a smart device. There's another question from Joseph. If you could make one aspect of online learning more efficient, what would be that?
Excuse me. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
If you could make one aspect of online learning more efficient, what would be that?
I would be using the whiteboard kind of thing. So, and then I will allow my students to allow them to write on that. So, for example, if I asked any question and then I said, okay, your answers, and they write on their boards, and then I can see the answer over there. If that facility is not there, I'm teaching a live lesson, and I can see who is online. Let's say at the moment I'm seeing so many names on there. Just pick up one student. Can you answer this question? Or there's a hand up option. So just involve them. I mean, if they're sitting in a live classroom. And again, I would say as a teacher, you have to know your student very well. And when you are putting up that question, you know who will get it straight away. You know who will struggle, who will take some time to think about that. So just, I would say, involve that student directly, okay? Interact with that student directly.
I mean, I think one aspect that would make it more efficient is the digital balance is is not good at all in certain places. So In order to make it more efficient, I would make sure everyone has a device, and also make sure that everybody has Wi-Fi if they don't get Wi-Fi in their particular area. And that's the direction that a lot of schools are trying to go in. Sometimes it's not possible in big, urban places and in places in the middle of the country. But that's how I would make it more efficient. Is I know we have to give students packets if they don't have the technology, but in light of the price of Chromebooks and also wireless, I know a lot of companies are jumping on board to provide some of those things for free or at a discounted rate. And hopefully we can get as many people on as possible. I know the last time I looked, I think 40% of the world is connected to the internet, which is fantastic and amazing. But then if you look at the flip side of that, that means 60% is not connected online. So that would be the first thing I would try to do to address it for all students the best we can possibly, get them all devices and also get them all on some type of wireless. And even in the United States, I'm not sure in other countries, in rural places in the country, they have actually taken school buses and made school buses hotspots and parked next to neighborhoods just so students could get online.
Yes.
I forgot to mention one thing. Oh, sorry, Rida.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
so
you can
okay, who's going first? Rida, you're going first.
Sir, you can continue, please.
Okay, what I do is the live lesson is always recorded, and I leave my recording on the Microsoft Teams, so they can always access, even if they don't have the access at that time, the real time of the lesson, so they can access. So I would say it's very, very important that the students see their teacher, because they understand their teacher better than anybody else. Online coaching, watching videos kind of thing. They are used to one person who has been teaching them since year 7, maybe in some cases. So I think it's very important that they see you teaching according to their needs. So just leave your recording of your live lessons. I will make sure that.
Yes,
Basically, one of the problems that a lot of my parents complained about is that they have more children at home, and more children means more gadgets, but not every child has their own separate gadget here in our country, basically. I mean, they must have 2 laptops, maybe maximum, or 3. So it's also one problem that a lot of children face, because every child needs to attend their online lessons, and then they might be at the same time, because most of the schools, they work from 9 till 2 or so on and so forth. So I think that keeping in mind and making a proper plan and schedules for every level can be very effective, but then you have to make sure that every child has an access to a device of their own. They must have a collaborative session with anybody, so that even if they miss on something, they have something to back it up with. So.
All right, and it actually depends on the subject and the contents. Like if you're teaching mathematics, it's totally a different answer. It's a correct answer. I mean, it's a methodology there. But on the other side, if you're teaching econ or business management, it's a kind of a descriptive answers. So they need more discussions on that. So it varies from subject to subject, or even the contents of the topics, in fact. Like sometimes when we give the MCQ questions on a PowerPoint to assess, we give them only a minute or so, a minute and a half, to answer the question immediately. And then the students they have choice to come back to the same answer, the same question again. So we have a slides of different questions. They need to read the question. They have to answer in a very specific time. And then it's next question, the third and the fourth and so on. So the students, they have a very limited time frame in order to answer those questions, and all will go on quickly. But again, it depends on the question and the topic and the contents, in fact. All right, and I think there is another question here. Were you able to compete with the subject content you were expecting during the pandemic? If yes, then share your methodology. Question for Bruce.
No, I wasn't able to get to the same amount of content. I think almost every single educator in the world, if you were, tell me how to do it. But if you're in the classroom and you're with students, you can go at a much quicker pace, You can see how much they're learning, how much you need to stop and make sure that they have understanding. And I think, you know, most people, if they've got to half of what they normally would do, that would be successful. In my own particular case, I teach TV production. We did a live TV show every single day in our school, an 8 to 10 minute show that the kids wrote, produced, and did in the morning. Well, we have gone to a weekly show where we still have the TV show, but they contribute throughout the week, and then we publish one show. So we're still teaching much of the same content, but I think the pacing, you have to go slower. I mean, you can continue at the same pace, but I think you're going to lose a lot of students like very, very quickly. So, and that's something that's hard for, I think, for the teacher, that you're not going to get to every single concept that you thought you were going to get to. So pick the most important ones that you want them to understand in the time period that you have. And the other thought I have going forward is we might be on a hybrid in the United States, maybe in school and also remote learning. I think teachers, educators, as well as students, we've gotten better and better at doing the remote learning. So I do anticipate going a little bit faster in the fall, where when I started in the middle of March, everything was brand new to me, even a technology teacher, where the tools were in Zoom. I had never used Zoom and some of the other tools before. But now that we know the tools better and the students do, I think you can go at a more rapid pace, not the same pace, but a little bit quicker, possibly in the fall or whenever the schools open. I know some schools open even in July and August.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question, or we can wind up now if there is no more question? It's almost, I was planning to have like around an hour or so, like 15 minutes, but it's an hour and about 25 minutes. So
I can answer just one more question that's on there. Someone's asking about Google Docs.
Yes.
And I would highly suggest there's something called Jamboard, which a lot of times the administrator needs to, it comes with the Google Suite, but they need to give the teachers access. And basically Jamboard is just like a whiteboard, but you can also invite students in like you would with a normal Google Doc. And it's a simple enough to use tool, and it's very, very effective. The students pick up on it quickly.
And Google Doc is really awesome. Like if you have like kind of calculations and informative work, they need to work in a group projects, and everyone can contribute, same as like the Padlet. They just enter their own point of views. They can research, they can enter something. That's really awesome. And it's quite interactive, but some countries, they need for that, the VPN for that, but some they're working without that. That's okay. All right, so I think this is all about, and I really appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much, Mr. Altaf, Ms. Bruce, and Ms. Rida, to be here with me today, and especially all the participants who spared their very precious time and joined this second webinar in the month of June. And I hope that to some extent, it's helped our teaching community and the educators as well as the students in order to learn something new experiences. And anyway, our emails are there. If you have some questions, you definitely ask me in detail later on. So thank you very much once again, all of you, and take good care of you and enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much. And it's now bye for now.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir.
Bye.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, and bye, everyone. Pleasure being
Thank you
with
so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Very informative session. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, everybody. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Allah Hafiz.
Goodbye.